In this quick tutorial, I just wanted to give you all a rundown on how we can use NodeXL to actually do some automated text analysis of Twitter data. So let's begin by actually importing some Twitter data from one of our popular hashtags that we've used in the past. So I'm going to go to my import menu again. I'm going to go down to my Twitter search network. All right, I'm going to look for our NCED hashtag once again. I'm going to just import our basic network. I already have a Twitter account like I've set up and showed you in some of the previous videos. I do not need 18,000 tweets. Let's just limit this to the last 1,000 tweets. And there's no need to expand the URLs in these tweets either. So let's click OK here. And importing our Twitter data. Now that we've gone ahead and actually imported our Twitter data, what we need to do is find the actual tweets column that we want to do the analysis on. So if you scroll over, it should be in column 2 after you've done your import. You can see that we actually have the content of the tweets right there, along with some additional information about these tweets. For example, as we noted before in one of the earlier videos, what type of relationship this is. Is it a reply? Is it a mention? And also some additional information about the tweet itself. So for example, any websites that are referenced in the tweet, as well as any hashtags used in the tweet, in addition from the NCED hashtag that we did our search on. So now that we have our text data that we actually want to do the analysis on, what we're going to do is go up here to this graph metrics that we've used in the past, and we'll go ahead and click on that. And the first thing we want to do is we are going to do our words and word pairs. So we're going to do analysis of the actual text within that column. So we're going to go over here to options, open that up. And as you can see here, this is going to do our automated text analysis for us, a basic sentiment analysis. So what it's going to do is go through and identify any positive words that are used in those tweets from this library that's already been created. As you can see, these libraries are pretty extensive. And also it's going to go through and look for instances of negative words used in these tweets as well. And again, these libraries are pretty extensive. If there are, it's going to skip like basic stop words like a, the, and, in addition to a number of others. You can also add your own stop words if you want to. We're going to tell it to skip words and word pairs that only occur once. We're actually just going to leave the default settings because that's set up just the way we want it. But the main thing about right here is we need to actually go and tell it what column in our worksheet that we want to do the analysis on. And as we saw before, this is the tweet column that we want to do the text analysis on. So we're going to select tweet and click OK. So we have the words and word pairs setting all set up. And we're also going to add this Twitter search network top items. And you'll see what that's going to do in just a second. So let's go ahead, now that we have those all set up, let's go ahead and calculate these metrics. And it's going to do our text analysis for us. I also told it to do some overall graph metrics as well, just so we can get a sense of how many people are in this network and the number of communications taking place. As you can see, it might take a little while to calculate just based on the number of tweets that you have actually in your data set. So calculating Twitter search network top items, slowly progressing. Processing, there we go, inserting metrics into the workbook. And there we go, we're all set up. So now that you have gone ahead and calculated these metrics, you're going to see some new tabs down here in your workbook. We're going to see these Twitter search network top items. So we can see the URLs that are referenced the most within this Twitter network. We can also see some of the top domains. In this case, we had it keep the URL shorteners. So that's going to really limit our data because a lot of these URL shorteners are going to actually just reference like bit.ly, for example, or when Twitter will shorten a URL that someone shares. So that might be one reason you want to expand the URLs when you're doing your analysis, just depending on what it is you want to analyze. We can also see some of these top hashtags that are used in this discussion. And then finally, we're going to get some overall metrics too for number of positive words, number of negative words, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, the actual analysis that it does is pretty extensive. But let's go over to our, oops, here we go. Scrolling down, we're going to go over to our words and word pairs as well. So as we can see, here we go. We have the number of, just on the, as shown on the other one, we have the number of positive words in this used in these tweets, as well as the number of negative words that show up. And then we can also see our top words that are referenced in the tweets as well. So this is actually pretty interesting. All right, so one other thing I want to show you as well is if we go back to our edge column, we are also going to see that it inserted some new columns into our edge list. So as you can see, we have our sentiment list here. This is list number 1. This is just the count or the total number of positive words within this tweet over in column Q. So within this particular tweet, this had, scrolling over, this had 1 positive word, which accounted for 5% of the total number of words in that tweet, and 0 negative words. So you can go down here and get a sense. We can actually sort these two and see who's using the most negative words versus the most positive words. Okay, so that gives you a sense of how to do the text analysis of tweets that have used that you may have used in previous in the previous unit. So now I want to show you just one last thing before we're all done. So now that we have a nice sort of descriptive summary of the text or the content of these tweets, both in terms of the number and frequency of positive and negative words in these tweets, as well as some of our top terms and top hashtags that are taking place in these tweets. One last thing that I do want to show you is how we can incorporate this into some of our network graphs. So let's get started really quick with just a basic network sociogram. Okay, so in past videos I've showed you how to modify the node size and do a little bit of visualization with these graphs, but this time I'm going to focus just on using our text analysis and incorporating this into some of the graphs here. So let's go to our autofill columns. And we're going to be interested, since we're doing the analysis of the actual tweets, we're interested in these tweets that people are sending back and forth to each other. So these are the edges within our graph. And what we want to do is, one way we can incorporate these into the graphs is by kind of highlighting throughout the network where we are tending to see more positive words or perhaps more negative words, whichever one we're more interested in emphasizing. So let's actually do this with color. So we're going to take, let's highlight first the positive words. So we want to do, let's do our positive word frequency list, so our percentage of positive words in a given tweet. Let's go over to options here, and we're going to say, just for the sake of it, we'll say that more positive ones are green, and then we'll just keep this simple. We'll keep these black. There we go. So as has a greater proportion of positive words, it's going to appear more green on the graph. So let's click OK, and we're going to autofill this. And then we can get a sense of the positive relationships in the graph. Obviously, we need to do some cleanup here because this is very difficult to see what's going on. So let's change our formatting layout and refresh the graph a little bit. That cleans things up just a little bit. So we can see a number. That's very interesting. So within this relationship here, we can see a lot of positive references to this one individual. Okay. And also here in the center, we see a lot of positive tweets going on as well. Let's reverse this now. I'm kind of curious about the percentage of negative words to see if these seem to kind of cluster around any given individuals. Alright, so let's change this to red, click OK, and there we go, autofill, and okay. It's about as clear as mud. So let's close this and zoom in. We have some negativity going towards this. I wonder what this is all about. As you can see, this will give you kind of some indicator of where we're seeing positive and negative references within the network. But clearly, just beyond visual inspection, it'll probably be important to dig a little bit deeper into some of these relationships and perhaps see why we're seeing more positive or negative words around these given individuals in the network. So that kind of sums it up. So basically all we did, just kind of summarize, is we imported our Twitter network, we took our tweets, and what we did with those tweets is we did some basic automated text analysis where we went in and we did word counts of the most common words, most common search terms, URLs, and also we did some basic sentiment analysis indicating positive and negative words within those tweets.